production of Broad and High is funded in part by the Greater Columbus Arts Council, supporting arts, advancing culture, and connecting the community to artists, events, and classes at columbusmakesart.com.
And PNC, committed to Central Ohio, for the achiever in you.
This time on Broad and High. Explore the art coming out of Paris at the turn of the 19th century.
This whole show is about that period right after the peak of Impressionism.
Meet the oddly lovable creatures by Ohio artist Amanda Louise Spade. And two best friends leave their mischievous mark all over Yellow Springs. This and more right now on Broad and High. Hi everyone, I'm Kate Quickle and welcome to Broad and High. The end of the 19th century in France, also known as fin du siècle, saw major political unrest and cultural transformation. Anti-Semitism was on the rise, and so was fervent nationalism. Meanwhile, science and technology was advancing, and responding to all of this were, of course, the artists. These so-called neo-impressionists captured not just the scenes, but the mood of their country on the cusp of 2 centuries. We popped into the current exhibit at the Columbus Museum of Art to learn more about the work of those avant-garde artists who picked up where the Impressionists left off.
Beyond Impressionism is an exciting partnership with the Guggenheim Bilbao, and it has over 100 works in it. The title is about the fact that this whole show is about that period right after the peak of Impressionism. Impressionism sort of peaks in the 1870s and maybe into the early 1880s. And Impressionism was this breakout moment for modernism. We think about Monet and Renoir and this whole idea of painting light, literally capturing moments of light. So this was a huge breakthrough. I mean, it changes the arc of what happens in Western painting. But it had sort of a terminus. After you've done that, what do you do with it? You know, how do you extend that legacy? How do you extend that revolution? Maybe more than legacy. How do you extend that revolution? So that was a challenge for the original Impressionists like Pissarro, Monet, Renoir, but it was also a challenge for the artists coming after them. And so this show is about that real turbulent time of the 1890s, and the terminus is really sort of the opening of World War I. It kind of goes from the 1890s into the very first decade of the 20th century. Neo-Impressionism is known for this dot thing, the idea of painting with these little dabs and these little dots. It's very much connected to an artist named Seurat. He was part of a group of artists that wanted to sort of get a hold of Impressionism, because Impressionism started to get really sort of amorphous. They wanted structure and organization. The other thing you're going to discover in the exhibition is more about symbolism. Symbolism, the thing to remember about symbolism is it was a way of creating more of a subjective response in painting and graphic art. This is a great period of printmaking and graphic arts. There's a wonderful artist called Redon. He's very much about the dream, the inner state. It's all subjectivity. It's just the opposite then of Impressionism in that sense. He was very interested in not just dreams, but nightmares, and he's fascinated by Edgar Allan Poe. It almost is like day and night. He goes from these very kind of dark dreams, dark thoughts, and sort of horror kind of lace things to these luminous pictures, which are very like, sort of transformational in the other sense. They lift you up. The third thing that you'll discover is this was the period of the birth of celebrity culture and advertising that we now are the heirs of. This was a period filled with these Lagalu, Jane Avril, all these characters, and they would have been as well known to the people of Paris as Beyonce is to us. Neo-Impressionism does grow out of Impressionism, and you can't have any of these pictures without Monet. You can't get to these pictures without going through Monet and Renoir. And so I think they are the children of the Impressionist Revolution. So this period, I think, often gets overlooked, but they were fantastic pictures.
Beyond Impressionism is on view at the Columbus Museum of Art through January 21st. Visit columbusmuseum.org to learn more. The artist in our next story creates endearing, doll-sized creatures that are, at first glance, a little unsettling. Their wide eyes and crooked teeth make one wonder if they are the end result of an ill-conceived taxidermy experiment. So ask yourself, do they look like this because they were cast off and abandoned, or was it because they were literally loved to pieces?
An artist is inherently a creator, someone who translates mental flashes and images in their brain into something that we can experience with our own eyes. Amanda Louise Spade has a whole world that exists inside her head, and her gifts to us are the odd and beautiful creatures that populate it.
And it's like an orphanage here. It's like the halfway house for wayward creatures.
Each of Amanda's creatures are handmade and give off their own unique history and personality. However you might classify Amanda's work, it might seem as though you're making a strange new friend, and not just another art object to collect and put up on your wall.
I kind of imagine that they maybe inhabit a world that, like maybe they come alive at night. I mean, you're sleeping, you don't know what happens. Like maybe they're eating crumbs from under the refrigerator, or like dead bugs on the windowsill. Like, are they like eating your expired cough syrup? They're the character actors of the art world, and that they're never the most beautiful. Maybe they're not hunky. They always look nervous. They always look a little bit spooked, but they don't know. It's a big world out there. I do feel very maternal about them. Like, I brought them into the world, and it's important to me that I know that they're going to a safe place and that they won't be allowed to play in traffic, and someone will keep them from touching a hot stove, and they'll be all right.
Amanda's work is sought after by collectors all over the globe. Recently, she was sought after by director Christopher Kozelis. Kozelis contacted Amanda to make puppets for his upcoming stop-motion animation, The Maker.
Of course I said yes, because that's something that goes all the way back to childhood dreams of making puppets and seeing them alive and seeing them move, because it's one thing to have a beautifully crafted object sitting there that you look at and you're proud of and you're like, this exemplifies all the things that I want, but then to see it blink or turn its head or move or breathe was just amazing, and he's a very gifted animator.
Amanda's puppets were painstakingly animated by Zealous Creative, resulting in an absolutely gorgeous and touching short film. The Maker has gone on to screen at over 60 festivals worldwide and made one artist extremely happy.
I totally cried like a baby when I saw it for the first time, because it was kind of like, I knew it. Like, I knew they're real. Like, I told everyone they were real, and now I can prove it. Like, to see them moving and blinking and existing not as a still frame was really, really amazing. I'd love to do that again.
One can only hope to see Amanda's creatures come to life again, and her brood is growing. Recent shows in Columbus, Albuquerque, Chicago, New York City, and even in Japan have kept Amanda extremely busy finding new homes for her wayward creatures.
There's a world that I wish existed, and as an artist, I have a rare gift, and that gift is that I can make it. So I'm taking every opportunity I can to actually make this world in my brain happen. It's very exciting.
Follow the adventures of Amanda's oddly adorable dust bunnies on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can find her at Amanda Louise Spade. You can also watch The Maker in its entirety on her website at amandalouise.com. Our next story takes us to Detroit, where Austin Brantley shows off his skills in figurative sculpting. His work is so expressive and conveys so much emotional depth that you're going to have a hard time believing that not only is he self-taught, but he's also just a teenager.
When Laura came in, I wanted to capture a certain depth that I think that she has as an actress. I picked a pose that was sort of sad and sort of depressed, even though my motto isn't. I picked that pose because I wanted to convey, just in my mind, I wanted to convey, like in my series, that all these pieces have in common is that they're sort of sad and isolated, and they're trying to understand why this is happening, why, and they're confused. These characters are confused because they're trying to know who they are, trying to get out of bad situations and live, explore, but they can't. I think of, like with the isolation and breaking out, I think a lot about Detroit because just in general, that's where we are. We're breaking out, we are coming out of our shells, our cocoons, and we are becoming culturally aware and very much expressive. And not just arts, but everything.
There's something about the figure that just we all can relate to, and it's so appealing. And to do it well is really, with expression, is really admirable, and it's a challenge. He's just such a young, he's so young. I think that's the thing that flabbergasts me. He's so young to be pulling this out and doing this. I mean, he's only 18, for Pete's sake. And he's got such skills. I mean, he's not perfect yet. None of us are, but still, what he is pulling out of the clay, different personalities, different emotions and expressions, that can only get better. It's only going to get better.
Before sculpting, I was in the athletics. I also played the alto sax and band and stuff like that. I was musical. I tried everything. I just wanted to find what I wanted to do, really. I just played with clay a lot when I was probably about 15 years old, and I got in a ceramics class, and I just liked playing with the clay. I didn't get the same satisfaction as making a pot as I did just making a face. There was this is so new, this type of satisfaction was so rare to me because I've always been a perfectionist, but I didn't know I could really sculpt. I never knew I could sculpt. It was like, I looked at sculptures before and I was like, how are those even made? And then I started doing it, and it's a completely weird experience, really.
I first met Austin when he stepped into my ceramics class one day. He popped his head in and kind of waited around till there was a break, and he came up to me and introduced himself, and he said he was working on some sculpture and he was wondering if I could give him some feedback on his sculpture. And he had 3 sculptures set up, and it really surprised me. It knocked me over, actually, because he is so young and his sculptures were so developed this is his first sculpture class, basically, as I understood it, and I was just in awe.
I think at first, I even thought it was sort of like a hobby, and then other people did, but I sort of really thought that it could really mean something different.
I feel that Austin has a really important role to play. And this was made clear to me when I went to the NCECA conference this year, which is the conference for ceramic education in the arts. And there's thousands of people there, and the keynote speaker is Theaster Gates, who is a well-known sculptor. And he had an inspiring talk where he spoke about how important the diversity is and how we all have this calling. I was just like, Austin, I know, I should bring Austin here. You know, we all have choices in life, and he has chosen the human figure and working with the human emotions. And I admire him for that, and it's a real gift. And yes, I think he has a role to play to all young people in this.
When I'm looking for inspiration, I'm looking for something deeper, something emotional, I try and do the classic tradition, but also mix up my own sort of style into it. I look online for source material, or if I see a face that I think is interesting, I'll grab that model, or I'll just draw that face, or I'll just imagine that face when I'm sculpting, and then I sort of put that into the clay. Not just making a sculpture or doing a portrait, but making a statement is one of the most important things to me. Just as people, we can find something that we really love. It's just the satisfaction of being able to display your thoughts in a three-dimensional form. It's just, it's really great that I can just sort of talk through the clay. I get to just put everything that's in my mind into that piece of clay. I completed this sculpture. It's called I Exist. It represents American slavery and just a human being feeling the need to display that he exists, that he's shouting out, he's reaching out to show that he is here, that he is a being too. Just the overall expression of it is refreshing to me, because it didn't even take me that long to sculpt it. The idea was so inspiring in my mind that it was so easy.
That to me exhibits this hunger that he has and this passion for his art and craft. He has visited any number of well-known artists locally. I know he just recently got back from Toledo visiting an artist.
I met a master sculptor. His name is Woodrow Nash, and the most memorable thing that he told me is that the clay will reveal itself to me, that I have to discover myself in the clay, I have to discover my own voice in the clay, and that I'm only limited by my own ability to create. And when I heard that, I just it's like, this is what I want to do, this is where I belong.
I love his pieces actually in the raw state. That's probably my favorite point, is as they are emerging out, there's something in that leaves, that's a mystery to it that you also wonder about. And I like that part of his work where he is putting expression in, but then at the same time, he's letting the clay show the natural physical properties of the clay.
I really believe in conquering your fears and also getting through obstacles. Just for every person, I think every person has it different, but I think every person is trying to get where they want to in life. And to be able to actually sculpt it out, like when I'm actually sculpting something, I'm sort of sculpting my life. I'm making it.
So when I first heard about the Jaffa Girls out of Yellow Springs, Ohio, I admit I had to Google the term. I learned Jaffa stands for just another flipping artist. These two best friends use craft activism to raise awareness of social issues, and they have quite a bit of fun leaving evidence of their mischief all over town.
Hi, I'm Nancy Mellon.
And I'm Corinne Bayraktaroglu.
And we are the Jaffa Girls. So the question everybody asks is, what does Jaffa stand for?
I had a big show in West Carrollton, and I think 10 people showed up that evening for the reception. I was pouting, and my husband said, "Oh, well, you're just a bunch of Jaffas. It's, Saturday night in the middle of nowhere, and you're just another bunch of flipping artists, I just thought that was hilarious, and I thought, that's what I am. I'm a Jaffa. I'm just another artist. So I'm going to do things a little differently. If I can't bring people to my work, I will bring my work to them." And that was sort of the start of it, wasn't it?
And we started coming up with ideas for things we wanted to do
And she
together.
just had the Jaffa attitude. we'll just do what we want, and when we're in the mood, right?
Yes. And one of our first ideas was we wanted to make people really notice that Yellow Springs was an art town. So we decided to make an art gallery in the train station's bathrooms.
And called it the Chamber Pot Gallery.
And we called it the Chamber Pot Gallery.
So that was one of our first projects. It was the beginning of this crazy sort of like fun adventure.
Yes.
She's goofy.
And she listens. We both listen to each other, and that is so much fun.
True, yeah.
And it also is...
There's no sort of competition or ego battles. And we can be honest with each other.
Yes.
Very honest.
Yeah.
Nancy and I will get together every Tuesday and have a cup of tea. And then we start chatting, plotting. Sometimes we've seen something that inspires us, right?
Yeah, and there's a lot of what if we did this? Do you think that would be cool? And then the other one riffs off of that.
With the yarn bombing, it started because Nancy and I are big proponents of supporting the Yellow Springs Arts Council and artists in general.
We created an event about graffiti. And as part of it, Crean does a lot of looking on the internet at other art things that are going on. And she had found, it's like a little thing over a door handle. But it was really cool. Just the idea was, you could put knitted things outside. Out front was this lovely big old tree. So we just put on a couple of pieces. And that was it for that particular show. So I asked Green, why don't we yarn bomb the rest of it?
Oh, you didn't ask me. You just started doing it.
Okay.
You thought it looked really sad.
But what was really neat was that while we put up and made probably most of it, other people started getting involved, too.
It did inspire a lot of fun for the community.
But there were still some people, because it's Yellow Springs, who were definitely concerned about the health of this tree. So we ended up taking it down come spring, which was only like 6 months later or something.
We recycled the knitting and we decided to add to it, and we yarn bombed every single pole, tree and bench on Dayton Street. So we recycle a lot. We recycle the flowers, we recycle yarn.
And things sort of changed for us too. We started off with the yarn, but we started using a lot more felt, and it became much more about appliquing felt and doing different layers.
Well, one of the other projects that we did was we
had a 6-week artist residency at the Dayton Metro Library.
Northwest branch.
Yes, brand new, beautiful. We felt like the library was made for us because this library has a bazillion poles. And as yarn bombers, you use poles often. So everywhere we looked, and there was one that was to die for.
Oh, it was gorgeous.
We spent half the time where we worked with people there on projects that we had made up. And then the other half of the time we just got to play.
It was a wonderful
lovely
experience.
Yeah.
So what we're working on today is we're going to do some more blue butterflies.
It's for the Salem Peace Corridor. It's one of the longest streets in Dayton, I think. What they want to do is to help the community feel, and the feeling of safety and the feeling of pride of being on Salem Avenue. And Dayton is known as a peace community. By putting something cheerful and non-threatening, but something that'll surprise people, that'll draw people there, that will cause people to smile. We think that it could help this whole process of change for this area. At one point I was thinking, wouldn't it be cool if they got different people in the communities to do different poles or benches or signs? So to start it off, we said we would do one of our blue butterfly installations. And it's a way of saying, I'm here and I believe in this area, and, smile, take a picture, enjoy it.
Well, in January, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And one of the things that I was concerned about was how to make people feel comfortable and also provide the means for other people to help you. We started asking people to create circles or knitted boobs or crochet boobs, and we collected all these boobs and put them together and put them on the trees outside the front of the house. What an absolute joy. Every time I left that house, every day for radiation, I would look at these boob trees and just giggle. So anyway, Nancy and I decided to do a show. We're best friends. We're going to call it Bosom Buddies, obviously. And the show is not just about me, it's about also showcasing how friends feel, because it's hard for friends to watch loved ones going through this.
So the Bosom Buddy show will happen in April, and it'll be at the Yellow Springs Arts Council Gallery.
It never occurred to me I could be an artist. I didn't actually do art till I was 40.
I believe everybody creates art, and art does.
It brings people together.
Right, it's not just about the artists, it's about all the people in the community. It's been a blast.
And it's just wonderful to have an art partner who is adventurous and likes to do crazy things sometimes.
That's our show. Remember, you can always visit all of our stories on WOSU.org. You can also check us out on the WOSU Public Media mobile app, and be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks for watching. Be sure to join us back here next week for more great stories on Broad and High.
Production of Broad and High is funded in part by the Greater Columbus Arts Council, supporting arts, advancing culture, and connecting the community to artists, events, and classes at columbusmakesart.com.
And PNC, committed to Central Ohio, for the achiever in you.